All right. Well, good evening, folks. Here we are. It's what July. What do we got? July 13th,
13th.
uh,
Harrison Ford's
2023.
birthday.
Yes. Yes. 70. What is 72?
81.
Oh wow. Oh, I'm only off by a little bit.
72, the
Only off by
last
a little
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
bit. So happy birthday to him. And Mike, I hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going pretty well.
So far, can't complain.
Yeah. We were down in Delaware last weekend, visiting some really good friends of mine I used to work with, and coming home Sunday, got caught in some of those downpours that came up
Oh,
through. That was pretty rough. We stopped, pulled off the road, got lunch. There was cars on the side of the road. Lanes were flooding. They were shutting things down. We didn't get the brunt of it. Now, where I'm from, more like Reading, Philadelphia area, they recorded like 8 inches of rain,
ooh.
and I don't know if you saw like New York, like Vermont. I mean,
From
there's
Vermont. Yeah. What
entire
part of
towns
Delaware?
flooded up. Yeah, what's that?
What part of Delaware?
We were in Bethany Beach. Familiar with that at all? Bethany, Rehoboth, those areas.
Okay. When I lived in Baltimore, Delaware was like, I actually lived a little outside of Baltimore and Aberdeen. Delaware was like a 20-minute drive.
Oh,
And
yeah,
we'd go
straight
there
shot.
because there used to be a great flea market in Newcastle.
Hmm.
And also there's no sales tax in
Yes,
Delaware. So if you went to the mall and it was $19, it was $19.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I left in 96, but in 96, the only still existing Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips restaurant was in the Christiana Mall. So, yeah,
Ah,
it's my
interesting.
knowledge of Delaware.
My wife grew up. So my wife's family got a place when she was a baby, and basically grew up there. They spent their summers there. So in the summer, mom would stay down. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she would stay at the shore and along with the kids. And so my wife would essentially live there for the summer. And then when they were older, they would get jobs and stuff like that. And so yeah, spent a lot of time down there. So it was good to get back down there. A buddy of mine I used to work with retired and moved down there. I don't know, about 5 years ago, and really good guy. So it was a real nice weekend to get down and see them, and spend some time down around those old honing grounds for my wife anyway. So, but yeah, Maryland. I mean, half the time we go actually take the Beltway to go around Baltimore to get down there. So
Hmm. Well, we
yeah.
used to, my son's mom used to cross stitch, and there was a cross stitch store in Bear, Delaware, and right next door was like the outlet store for Factors Inc. And Factors
Hmm.
did all of the buttons and the stand ups and stuff for Star Wars. So
No, no kidding.
they closed down. So it's like 82 when we got there. They were closing down. So I bought all kinds of stuff, dirt cheap, but original buttons and the cardboard stand ups and stuff. I got a basement full of that stuff. But I just
No
remember
kidding.
seeing Factors Inc. and I was like, I know who that is. So yeah. Thank you, Delaware.
Yeah, yeah, I do know what you're talking about with the outlet as far as you can at cross stitch. My wife got into that years ago, and so we would go down, and she would often go there to pick up things dirt cheap because a lot of times you get in some, pretty good amount of money when you're talking about patterns, especially like hard to find stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very cool.
Just
Well, all
pulling.
right, so hey, we're already sidelined. We're off to Delaware and cross stitching. So we'll
There
get
you
back
go.
on track here.
Bringing
So
us up
tonight's
on the phone. See some comments.
yeah, so we've got a couple comments here. I'll roll some in. We got Robert with us. All right, Robert.
Hey,
Good to
Robert, how you
see
doing,
you.
bud?
Hello, Robert. Robert has become another regular since school's out for the summer, so it's
Yeah,
good to
yeah.
see him back. Yeah, says he's got StreamYard sorted out. He's got his name up on there, so it's good. Much easier for us to see who's commenting there. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So I'm sure we'll get some more regulars rolling in here. So tonight, obviously tonight we're going to be focusing on Jaws 3, Jaws 3D, depending on which version you ended up seeing first, I guess. Ventured from one to the next, and we have a special guest tonight as well. Um, to come in. So I won't even name him. So Mike, if you want, you can introduce him, or we can just kind of pop one in. And
Is he here?
he is not here yet.
Oh,
So
okay. Just say.
that's why he wouldn't drop his name just yet. I thought we would see.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
good evening, Nate and Mike. I'm assuming that's probably
That's
our
Victor.
good man Vic. Yes, Vic.
Victor loves Jaws 3. Loves it.
It's his favorite, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
his favorite Jaws film in the series is Jaws 3. So
it only goes up from there. Am I right?
right.
So I don't know. I didn't put a lot together tonight because I thought there'd definitely be some things open for discussion, especially with the nature of the film of Jaws 3. But I was trying to pick things that perhaps we don't typically hit. I didn't want to beat on the bad 3D and the bad graphics because I like any film, I think there's definitely some merit to it, and I think that there were some things that really kind of shine through. So I'm going to try and focus a little bit more of the positive tonight. So hopefully we can pull some positive out of this, and maybe get some positive feedback. As you can see, Victor's already feeling pretty positive about this.
He's going to be nice. Said he's going to play nice.
We don't want Vic to get mad and start any more fires and send them down our way. Now, do we? All right. Okay, so we'll get this rolling until our guest appears, and we'll hit the pause button there for our guest. So, first things first, it always comes to my mind, and this is rooted not so much with the earlier movies, but Jaws 4 is. Do you consider Jaws 3 to be canon? In other words, if you had to take Jaws as a whole series, Mike, would you consider this to be a canonized film or not? Because, as you know, Jaws 4 completely discounts this film.
Right. It's like Halloween 3. Halloween 3.
Exactly.
It's got Halloween in the title, but it's got nothing to do with the original Halloween story. This does, in the fact that it's got a couple of the Brody boys in it, but like I said, it's never referenced. It's never referenced in Jaws of Revenge.
Right.
It's. I mean, to me, Jaws of Revenge is more canon than Jaws 3 because at least you have the familiar characters doing more familiar stuff.
And in familiar roles too.
Yes, I like the fact that Mike Brody became someone that worked with sharks and with animals, and even more so in Jaws of Revenge. I like the way they took the story, but I think once they decided to, the whole reason they made it was for 3D, but I think they tried to concentrate more on that than as far as any continuity or plot points.
Yeah. Agreed on that. Hey, looks like Donna is in visiting us tonight as well. I'm sure Donna would agree with you. I'm sure Donna would agree with us on Jaws of Revenge being canonized over Jaws 3D as well. Donna, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Although we do have, so Robert's saying he thinks 3D would be canon over Jaws 4.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, outside of the Brodies, there is not much of a connection there. So,
yeah.
Anyway. All right, who else we got chiming in here? Hi, Mike and Nate and Jaws Armies. I got to look that up real quick. I'm not sure who we have going on there.
Let's see. That is boom, 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 boom. Milos. Hello, Milos. How are you?
Milos. Very good to hear from you.
Welcome from the UK.
Right. Very good. Mentioned shark attacks in Amity when talking about Sean's phobia with the water. That he does. Yeah, so that is the one tie back to probably the original Jaws film. I have to agree. Yeah. Although certain things just go out the window. For example, we talked about this the other week. The bar scene, I thought was kind of a little bit out there over the top. I think the idea was really good. I think where they were taking it was really good. And if I did a little bit of research on this, and supposedly the original script wasn't going to be in SeaWorld, it was going to be in a man-made lake. And it was supposed to involve the Brodies, and maybe you know more than I do about this, Mike, or somebody at home perhaps. Um, and they were presented with that scenario. The shark would come in and basically, I guess, ravage those guys, and then the scenario of SeaWorld. And apparently, Universal kind of trumped and said, "Well, we're going to go with the with we're going to go with the SeaWorld idea instead of the man-made lake and all that kind of good stuff." So, would it have been better? Hard to say, but this is what we ended up with. So,
How do you get a shark in a lake, into a man-made lake?
yeah,
Is it the
yeah.
Jaws Revenge shark that can fly? Did it fly
He
into the man-made lake?
fly. He could roar. I mean,
Yeah.
he did a lot of stuff.
I think
You
we'll
know,
have to wait till Joe Al's his Jaws 3 log, which he's working on. Um, I think when that comes out, we'll have a lot more idea of how things came to be. I know he told me that when 3D started coming back, that I'll wave as well. That he went to had a Universal and said, "Hey, 3D Jaws 3D," and they greenlit it like that. Um, and I think, like I said, more attention was paid to what can we do that's you probably couldn't do as much in a lake with 3D, whereas you could at SeaWorld, where the shark comes through the glass and the whales jumping up, or the dolphins or whales, dolphins
yeah,
jumping
dolphins,
up.
right?
Yeah. And actually, when I was at SharkCon 2 years ago, the trainer of those dolphins came, and the dolphins are still alive. So,
Really?
yeah, I don't know if they're signing autographs if you go down there, but yeah, they're still there. See, Robert said that's a joke.
Now the critic made his Jaws the Revenge review. Batman theme song. And Jaws, the shark in this movie was estimated at, was it 35 feet long?
Yes, it's the biggest shark in the franchise. It went all out.
Yeah. Here's a good question. Did Richard Matheson write Duel? I know he was the one on Jaws 3. I don't know. Mike, you
I
got any
believe he
insight?
did. I believe he wrote Duel. He was a very well respected writer. Wrote a lot of television. I do think Richard Matheson wrote Duel. If I could reach my Duel book by Stephen Awalt, I would double check. But
And
yeah.
and I'm sure you have definitely more insight on this than I do, but Jaws 3 3D, we often hear about how the Jaws 3, at least they thought the effects kind of flopped. And in actuality, it wasn't really the effects. To my understanding, it was actually the theaters that were carrying it, because it was originally shot to be shown, and it was to be run off of two projectors at one time. Isn't that right? That's how you got
Right.
the 3D effect.
What they had is you had to have a silver screen, which a lot of theaters still hadn't installed. You had to have either dual projectors, or there was a box that you installed over the housing of the theater of the projector that encompassed the lens, and the lens of the projector went through that box to give the 3D effect. So it wasn't as much horrible effects as it was theaters weren't ready. I mean, 3D just came around so fast with Friday the 13th 3D,
Yes.
and so many other films that came out that jumped on that 3D bandwagon. And for what it's worth, Jaws 3D is the highest grossing 3D film of the 20th century. So got that going for it.
Yeah, and I do know then when it went, I can't remember if when it kicked out the video or went back as it went on, it just turned into simply Jaws 3 because of that, because of the lack of the 3D support. So it just became, and that's unfortunately that's where it kind of gets maligned by critics as far as some of the scenes. So in actuality, you're not seeing it in its all intended purpose.
Right, you're seeing what is supposed to be 3D, but it looks dumb. It looks dumb in 2 dimensions. It's like, oh, what was that shot for?
Yeah.
But if you can imagine the dolphins leaping up or the shark coming through the glass. Um,
Sure.
it's a lot more entertaining. And now I think they do have 3D versions, um, Blu-ray maybe 3D versions that come with glasses that people that have because they have the 3D televisions. So if you have a Blu-ray 3D player, you can see it in 3D. And I understand it's a little better process
Right.
now.
Yeah. So Robert says, I guess you could say Just 3D was a little too far ahead of his time. Yeah, I have to agree with that. Again, I think a lot of the critical the critical praise or the downing of the film is simply because a lot of theaters weren't equipped to show it the way that it was meant to be shot, and it kind of detracted. I know, a lot of times, like, people would compare and say, well, look at Jaws 3D, the effects were horrible. It's the same year that Return of the Jedi came out, and the effects were amazing. Yeah, but the effects weren't done in 3D, and so there again, I think we really need to put things in perspective and kind of look onto the positive side that I think Owls has really kind of taken a leap forward with some of this stuff. And so the fact that the fact that unfortunately it was misrepresented was a little bit out of his control. So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, it's very easy to kind of follow into the cancel culture. So I'm trying to look for a little bit of positive here.
Way to do it.
Right, right. And speaking of positives, as far as there were some really good things happening. So when you get into some of the attack scenes and some of the more graphic scenes or the effects, some of these really had some merit. And I'll be honest with you, I struggled to get really good screenshots of this. So these came out kind of dark, but things that always stuck out for me in the film. Number one, and I've said this before. In fact, I think I was on one night, I think with you and Jay in the middle of winter a couple of years ago. And I think one of the best scenes of all the movies happens to be the bottom left-hand corner. It's the inside view of when the shark is devouring. I can't think of the guy's name. Who was the shark hunter? Had the grenade in his hand.
Fitzroy?
Yes.
Yeah, Simon Corkindale.
And to me, that was just an amazing scene from inside the mouth. The mouth's chomping down. He's trying to get out of the way. You hear the bones crunching, and you see the blood start to. I just thought that was an amazing scene. I really did. I think that pulled it off really, really well. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's good in every Jaws film. I mean, I love the banana boat scene in Jaws of Revenge. I love the first 15 minutes, not only with Donna, but I love Sean Brody's death. I just think you can always find something good in a movie, but I thought Joe is way ahead. As I said, way ahead of his time in what he tried to do, and he's kind of maligned by stuff that wasn't his fault.
Sure.
He can only use what he only use the process they had. Nowadays in real 3D. I mean, Jaws. Last September, Jaws came out in 3D because now they have the process to go ahead and make a film that was not shot in 3D in 3D. So maybe they'll do. They've upped. They did the special editions of Star Wars, and I know the Star Trek, the original television series. They went back and added stuff. Maybe they'll do a 40th anniversary. Perfect time to do a cleaned up real 3D version of Jaws 3D. I think it would do well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I also think that maybe parts of that might be candidates for, as much as I hesitate to say that, some reintroduced or redone scenes. Jaws of Revenge. There was a guy, I would assume it was an independent person, who on YouTube actually took some original shots from Jaws of Revenge, particularly the underwater scene where Brody was in the sub, and more or less recreated the scene and had a more modern, more realistic CGI version of the shark.
I've seen that.
And I want to tell you what, it was amazing. You went, wow, so that's what it would look like if it was shot now. And as much as I don't want to see that, I'd rather see, your mechanical effects. They really did a good job with it. And so I'm thinking, could some of this, like the shark coming through the glass, could that be enhanced and definitely, look a lot better? Hard to say. But yeah. Overall, I thought the shark looked a little better in certain aspects of this one as well. I thought the scene of the body, when the girl gets pushed up against the glass and the body of the worker is shows up in the autopsy scene. I thought he was done really well. I mean, definitely more going on there than simply Hooper picking up an arm that had a
Yeah.
bite mark in it. I think the scene in the top left hand corner, and again, really hard to see because it's so dark. But the raft, the guys who were going in at nighttime and they were diving. I'm not sure what they were doing. They were diving down to, I don't know if they were after like valuable shells or whatever. And they're in a little yellow raft at night, and one guy dives down, comes up, and all of a sudden he disappears. Next thing you know, the raft just gets engulfed and gets completely pulled under. I thought that was a very powerful scene.
Oh yeah. I mean, Joe, honed his teeth on Jaws and Jaws 2.
Yeah.
He learned from, obviously Spielberg and Junot proved with, Supergirl and Santa Claus. He knew how to direct action. So, Joe was a good student. And, like I said, he's proud of this film. And when he does appearances, he usually wears a Jaws 3D shirt.
Yeah.
This is his name. It's got his name on it. This is his vision. So yeah,
Yeah.
give him
Absolutely.
kudos.
Some of the risks that they took. I mean, the scene where the shark does come through the glass in the restaurant. I mean, if you've ever seen the making of that, apparently, I mean, they approached that scene, I don't know how many times, and they were trying to keep the actual actors in that scene. And what it came down to it was so dangerous because the velocity of the water coming in was just so bad that they had to back it up and slow it down a lot, and then bring in obviously stunt actors. But I thought that was a pretty ingenious scene. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's on YouTube. The making of Jaws 3. I taped it off cable back whenever they aired it in the in the 80s when it came out. There used to be a great television show. I think it was on HBO. Maybe it was called Lights, Camera, Action, and they would do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I've got like the Blue Thunder one, and I got the Jaws 3 one. But yeah, it's if you watch that, you get more of an appreciation of what the filmmakers had to go through to achieve the vision they achieved. Because not only are you having troubles with the shark, but they're having trouble with the shark in 3D because you don't want it to look, it kind of looks cheesy now, but they but through no fault of theirs, but they made sure they paid enough attention to what they were doing, where had the process been better, the film itself would have been, I think, looked at better.
Probably done more, yeah, more creditable. I think would have gotten less scrutiny. Yeah. Yeah. So Robert says 1983 was a great year for film. It really was. Yeah, yeah. We got Return of the Jedi, Vacation. Yeah. What else we got? Stephen King films. Christine. Guilty pleasure of mine. I love that movie. Cujo, another great one.
Dead Zone.
Yeah. Yeah. The Dead Zone. Jaws 3. Amityville 3D. So yeah. Did they do? I know that they did. Friday the 13th 3D. Did they do a Nightmare on Elm Street in 3D or no?
I think so. I think part 3 was Freddy's Revenge. I know one of the nightmares. I know one of the nightmares were in 3D. It would make sense that around that time, maybe 84, 85. See, I wish I should.
Close in the pond scene, devouring the diver. That would be scary.
Yeah.
Well, I take that shot as rule book 101 from the original Jaws with Chrissy, because you don't see the shark, you just see her above the water. And same thing in that scene, the guy goes in the water, he comes up, he's from here up, you see him, and he's got a hat on, and he bobs once or twice, and that's it, he's gone.
Well, just like Eddie in Jaws too.
Yeah,
holding on to the boat, and then he's gone.
Yeah, fear of the unknown. Yeah. All right. Let me get us back in here.
Freddy's Dead, Final Nightmare. Okay.
We just went to see. So I just took my son to see, since we're hitting up on some of these. Last night we went to see the newest Insidious.
Oh,
and that
how
was
was
that was it was it was pretty good. I really enjoy the Insidious films. I thought the majority of them, the first two, I thought were really well done. This one really kind of tied together a lot of events from the first and second film. In fact, it was kind of a I don't want to say a revisit, but a continuance of that. So without giving too much away, it's set much in the future, and the boy who is involved heavily in one, is now of college age, and so he and the father start to kind of revisit or start to remember some of the things that were happening in the earlier films without throwing too many spoilers out there. And there was definitely some backstory building and things of that nature. And so it was maybe a little slow out of the gate, but once it started to move, I thought it was really well done. I really did. I'd
Didn't
encourage you
see
to
it.
go see it.
We don't do horror. I do horror. Juanita doesn't do horror.
Hmm.
But I know they've gotten good reviews from Jeremy that reviews it. And actually, I just posted, Keith just reviewed the original Insidious, just came out in a special edition Steelbook 4K. So, quick plug for Media Mike's. His review's up on Media Mike's now. But I know he really enjoyed the first one. And Keith knows horror. So if he liked it, it had to be good.
Well, and what I really like about it is all of those are more suspense than anything. I mean, there's little to no actually, the gore and I don't know, chopping people's heads off every 5 seconds. It just gets old after a while.
He
So it's
noted
definitely more suspenseful stuff.
Yeah, he noted that in his review. I remember when The Exorcist came back in 93. 93?
I think it was
No,
93, 95.
2000, 2003. Must have been the 30th anniversary. And I'd go stand in the back of a theater, and these 19, 20-year-olds are laughing, they're giggling. And I'm like, you idiots, because they're so, they're so used to, heads getting chopped off and,
Yeah,
blood spurting everywhere. They don't know that true horror is psychological.
yeah,
Anybody can, I think Jaws is a better film because you don't see a lot of the shark, because
yes,
you don't see the graphic nature of the attacks
yeah,
as they happen. It's more psychological. It's to me, it's more terrifying to imagine what is going on than to see it.
yes. And even the jump scares are really, I mean, the biggest jump scare, I think one of the biggest jump scares of all time is obviously Ben Gardner's head popping out. But when you look at it for what it is such a non-threatening thing. It's an eerie thing, but it's very non-threatening. It's not a jump scare. The shark pops out, and grabs someone, and next thing you know, there's entrails everywhere. It's a very sublime thing, and going back to the Insidious movies, same thing. So there's a lot of jump scares, particularly in the second movie. But the jump scares are a little kid goes running across the screen and scares the crap out of you. Not I don't know, demon jumps out with teeth and rips someone to pieces. So it's yeah, I agree. It definitely plays on the psyche, and the fact that it then becomes, what about it, or about that is what scares you as opposed to the person sitting next to you, and that's where I think it becomes gold. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Robert,
So
same thing happened during the screening of The Thing.
yeah,
People, younger fans didn't like it.
there
Good. They deserve the crappy remake. Then there you go. Stay away.
you go. Changeling starting George C. Scott as
Christy
the kid.
Scott.
I don't know if I saw that. I
Good
don't
movie.
think I saw that. Yeah, yeah, did
One of
not.
the one of the many movies in the '80s where he goes, "My God," like that. So it's my George C. Scott impression.
Well, it was George C. Scott was in Exorcist 3, correct? Yeah,
Three. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he was good in that too. I mean, he really was. That was. Sorry, I keep getting off subject, but that in my mind was a that was a pretty well done film.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I really thought it was.
Much better than part two. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Part two that was a rough one. Yeah. I get where they were going, but yeah, part three was much better. All right, agree about the shark usage in Jaws, making it more intense, But the big in your face is that estuary scene was the estuary scene. And to be honest with you, let's face it, the Quint scene. I think we under credit it these days because we've all watched it a million and a half times. But
Mm.
both of those are nightmare fuel, especially for me, the estuary scene, because that shark never comes up above water until after he grabs him. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah, yep, that sticks with me to this day. Yeah,
Oof.
absolutely. All right,
Cold chill.
yeah. So, um, moving on, I want to talk a little bit about some parallels because one thing, like I said, I try to put a few things together here. Is that I did really start to, the more I looked at things and started to go back and look at clips and stuff like that, and I went back and watched Jaws 3, I started to realize something I'd never really came across before, and that there are some serious parallels between Jaws 3 and Jaws 1, which is why I raised the question, is the film canon? And some of it comes out in some of the basic actions, some of the basic characters themselves. Number one, Mike Brody at the top. When you see him in a lot of the scenes, he's trying to get people out of the water. Other than the fact that when he's in the boat, he's really not in the water. He's trying to get people the hell out of there. He's not for the most part, in a lot of the movie, he's not a very, gung ho, tough guy who's out there to save the world. I mean, he's trying to do a little bit of, cover his own ass, for lack of a better term, and trying to shield other people. And just a couple little scenes like him in the golf cart running down to the beach, getting the microphone and yelling, "Get out of the water!" It immediately drew me right back to the Alex Kinter scene. Mm-hmm. When you've got Martin trying to get people out of the water, and as soon as his toes are in the water, man, he's like, he's backing up and yelling for people to get out. I thought that was a huge parallel. Along with some of the others, and some of the other parallels, I think really kind of crossed over even into some of the different characters. I think the sharks and how they died, I think was very much paralleled. In the original Jaws, Bruce gets this air tank and he's, running around with this big hard metal object in his mouth. And obviously that was his demise. He gets shot and explodes. And here in Jaws 3, when the guy gets chewed up, he's got the hand grenade in his mouth. That's the end of the movie. I mean, they see that the remains are still in there, and he fashions the metal rod, and he reaches in there and pulls the grenade, and kaboom! And that was the end of Jaws 3. So again, there definitely were some parallels there. So you got to give a little bit of validity and a little bit of credit to some of these scenes here. And something I didn't really notice at all before was the direct reference between Brody and names. I'm always so bad with names. What was the girl's name in the movie, Mike?
Which girl?
The blonde who played the ichthyologist.
Oh, Bess Armstrong?
Yes. What was her character's name?
Spencer just texted. They have thunderstorms and the Wi-Fi is wonky, but will be joining us soon.
Oh, awesome. Great.
So wanted to.
Oh, that'll be like me last week.
Good. Yeah, Catherine.
Kath, that's what it was. That's what it was. They were sitting in the underwater restaurant, and they're discussing this whole shark problem and what are they going to do to take care of it. Yep, thanks, Robert. And she talks about, we got a bite radius 36 inches across. It comes right out of Hooper after they cut open the damn tiger shark. We got a bigger problem than that, Martin. We got a fish with a bite. I just thought it was pretty interesting, some of the parallels. So.
Some good Easter eggs that Joe stuck in there. That back then you didn't the term Easter egg wasn't even invented, I don't think, for movies. But yeah, he did his best to pay homage to the films that came before him.
Definitely not. Yeah, definitely not. Okay. Well, hey, we have our guest, so let's bring him on. So, good evening.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Spencer,
yes,
how you doing?
Great. Let's see if I can adjust myself so I'm on camera.
Thunderstorms in Tampa at dinner time? What?
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy.
I did a show. I did a show last night, and we were talking about the weather down there. I said it's great. I said, but for 15 minutes around dinner time, you're going to get rain every day. So
Every single day, right about this time. Yep, especially during the summer.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, by the way, Spencer, Nate Jones, very nice to meet you. I'm a newcomer to the game. I definitely seen some of your other interviews and things, and some things on SharkCon that Mike has done. And just for everyone at home, we have Spencer Stewart, who is the person who I believe started the original SharkCon, correct?
Yeah, it was my crazy idea. I'll take responsibility for it, but yeah, that's on me.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So, give us some SharkCon background. Why did you?
Yes.
Sure. So probably like you guys, I enjoyed going to Comic-Con, those kind of things. And they're celebrating pop culture, which certainly we're talking about Jaws and doing that as well. But I actually have my degree in marine science, and coming from that and watching SharkCon, I'm not watching Shark Week and Shark Fest and things like that. I was seeing that those people on there, the people who are diving in, the scientists, the personalities, they almost had the same sort of fan following that, movie stars and TV stars have. I remember going to O-Search, if you're familiar with them. Those are the guys who bring the sharks on the side of the boat, pull them up and tag them. I knew somebody who was working for them, and I went there, and there must have been a line of 200 people waiting in line, and just women crying and kids excited like they were going to see the Beatles or something. So I thought, certainly let's do something different. Maybe we'll have something similar to Comic-Con, but rather than just, paying homage to pop culture, we'll pay homage to scientists and conservationists and photographers and people who are, involved with the ocean world, and tap into that fan base. And just like Comic-Con gives, people who are into pop culture a place to go and all, convene. Let's have some similar to that for people who enjoy the ocean, from fishing to scuba diving to sitting on the beach, to watching Shark Week at home. Let's service that and get them excited about something maybe outside of their TV. Show them the plight that sharks are going through and that the oceans are going through, and maybe through that we can help raise awareness and make changes for the better.
Yeah, a lot of because when I talk a lot about it from the movie aspect of your celebrity guests and that thing, but there's a lot of great stuff on shark conservation. And last time I was there, I was set up next to the big like swimming pool almost, so you could take scuba diving. You do quick scuba diving in. And I remember last time I was there with Richard, you had a young man, well, young to me, that was an oceanographer, but he became an oceanographer because of Matt Hooper.
Right.
And I just think it's just a great story, and it's a great thing you do. And if Peter Benchy was still alive, he would be a guest at this. You should try to have Wendy, because
I have.
They do a lot. I mean, they're very big in the shark conservation and everything that shows that sharks aren't just the evil monsters that movies portray them. But speaking of movies, you have a couple guests this weekend.
Yeah. So as we move forward, so 3 years ago, this was the second time, but we had Richard, and then then we showed Jaws right after.
Yeah.
So then, and that was the first year. I say coming back from the pandemic, but that was 2021. Let's be honest.
Yep.
We were still right in the middle of it.
Yep.
And then last year we had a lot of the teenagers who are no longer teenagers from Jaws 2. So this year we moved on to Jaws 3, and I'm pretty excited. We have Leah Thompson, who's probably better known for Back to the Future. Jaws 3D was actually her first movie, her first film role.
Really?
And then we have the great Louis Gossett Jr., who, say what you will about Jaws 3D, but his performance is amazing. I just watched it the other day. So this year we decided to have them in, and they're going to do a Q&A, and then we're going to watch Jaws 3D in the old school red and blue glasses like you used to get from 7-Eleven. and we're gonna watch it. And I have that version, and I actually put it on my big screen the other day and watched it to make sure it looked good. And it's surprising. Look, that 3D is not horrible, and but I got taken in by his performance. Louis Gossett was just amazing as the
He
park.
was he played a good not really villain, but he
Right.
was good at playing a guy you didn't like.
Yeah.
In the
He was the mayor.
yeah
That's exactly, yes, exactly. We were talking about parallels earlier
yeah
between
exactly.
Jaws 3D and Jaws 1, and you're exactly right. He was the person everybody loved to hate. Yeah.
Yeah, but he
But
was
wasn't necessarily a villain. You know,
No.
his intentions were good. He was trying to
yeah.
do what was best, what he thought was best for the park, just like the mayor was trying to do what he thought was best for Amity. But we could all see it, from afar that he's not really understanding the ramifications of all the stuff that he's doing.
Sure.
But I think he was better than the mayor. He's just such an amazing actor, and he's getting up there. So we're glad to have him. I mean, I believe he's in his late 80s. So between him and Leah, look, we tried to get Dennis Quaid as well, but he does not do conventions. So
Not yet.
yeah,
Give
not
it time.
yet.
Give it time.
Yeah, right. And a bill will come up or something will happen or somebody will say, hey, if you go to these, you can make X, Y, Z, and maybe that'll change. But I'm pretty excited to have Leah. When I was a kid, I loved Howard the Duck and Back to the Future and all that. So this is fun. It's fun to go back and watch her in that. So we're pretty excited to have both of them there. And then next year, just so you know, next year is our 10th year anniversary.
I'll be there.
So this will, we've already confirmed that Richard is coming back. So we'll have Richard, and then keeping on theme. So far, we've got Lance Guest in line, and been talking to his representative to have him there. Which, I love. I don't know if you guys remember Last Starfighter.
That's Starfighter.
Yeah,
Last Starfighter was an excellent movie, and then Mario Van Peebles, keeping that going. Have them there with Richard, and then there were a couple of Jaws 2 that we didn't get. The girl that played Tina, although she's no longer a girl, but her, and then the guy who played Michael. Try to get them back and have a nice round out of 1, 2, and 3 and 4 next year.
That would be great. Well, put me down my usual table next to Richard, because next year there's no way. I missed the last year and this year because it's my wife's birthday weekend, and as much as I love her and she loves me, I can't say, well, I'd love to do this, but it's SharkCon. But
well, I think it's more important that you stay. As much as I'd love to have you here, having you stay married or not married, not on my dime, would be fantastic.
I agree, but next week her birthday's out on a weekend, or next year, so
okay,
I'm already there. So yes, it's going to be fun, and everyone watching, you should make your way down to Tampa. I'm from Tampa. It's a great town, but this show is for what it is and what it does. It's a great event. You can spend the whole day there and probably not see and talk to everybody.
I mean, that's the goal. We want you to be able to go and look. I've always tried to mesh education with entertainment, because look, I mean, no one wants to go on a Saturday and have a dry biology lesson. But if we can make it fun, and I mean, you can go and you can learn something, and it's sharks so it's fun, and then meet a celebrity and do all that stuff. The more, and then right now, I think this year we have over 20 conservation and science partners. So you can go from OSearch to Florida Fish and Wildlife to Clearwater Aquarium, Moat Marine Aquarium, Sea Life Orlando, all that there. So you can go around, learn about all this good stuff they do, learn about the oceans, what you can do to protect them, and meet Richard Dreyfuss or meet Leah Thompson or whoever it is. Then that's what we try to do. Certainly want to have you busy for the whole day and walk out happy.
And that's an entire weekend event, correct?
Correct. It's both Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5 both days. And then Saturday we go a little bit longer because we shut down, and then that's when we do the showing of Jaws 3D. Just because we do have a lot of kids there.
Sure.
And so we want to be respectful of those and make it a separate event so that those who do attend and listen to Leah and then watch Jaws 3D or Jaws 4 next year, or whatever it is we watch, we can be respectful of them. So certainly we don't want to scare little kids off. We want them to realize the difference between real and not. I mean, people talk about shark movies and Jaws being bad. And I always say, well, yeah, but no one went to go see Cujo and then was terrified of St. Bernards for the rest of their life. I mean, but there's a good way to separate the two.
Sure. Little question, personal question from me, but to you. So obviously, I know your background is with is it oceanography or sharks in general? Did you concentrate in a particular species or any particular realm of sharks, like something that you really kind of took to more than anything else?
Well, when I was doing that, I mean, I did marine science research overall, but the one species we always work with, and a lot of people work with it down here in Florida, are the lemon sharks, because they're smart.
Really?
You can literally build, you know what a rat maze is. Everybody does. You can literally build a shark version of a rat maze for a lemon shark, and they'll go right through it. I mean, they're incredibly intelligent, and they spawn, and a lot of times they have their babies in the mangroves. That's where they stay when they come up, and then there are a lot of them around here, and they're a fun species just because they're super smart. There's one in the area that's famous off West Coast called Snooty. And she'll come up, and those who know her can pet her nose, and she's very recognizable. So, I mean, that's one of the things as you get in the ocean, you actually interact with these animals, because people don't generally do that. They don't really realize how sentient some of them are and how personalities there are. And a lot of them like that. I mean, look, they're a wild animal, and you need to respect that. But I mean, I volunteered at the Florida Aquarium, and there was a Goliath grouper there, and I swear it was like having a big giant dog. Like as I was cleaning the coral, it would follow you. They can make this giant boom noise that like to come up behind you and boom and scare everybody. He liked to play hide and seek. You could take your regulator out. He liked to open his mouth, so you'd stick your regulator out, like the way the bubbles feel. So I mean, they're not just mindless things just swimming through. I mean, I don't want to anthropomorphize them at all, but there's some smart animals out there in the ocean.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you for that. I've always been extremely intrigued by aquatic life in general. Obviously, sharks have always been a big impact on me, but even like freshwater fish really get into life cycles, habitat, stuff like that. So I'm just kind of curious because it considered actually venturing down that way when I went to college, but wasn't smart enough to be an ichthyologist, so I went into teaching instead. So, but yeah, very interesting.
Make sure you're there next year too, and Spencer will give you a tour of all the
cool
stuff.
Absolutely,
definitely something to get to. That'd be great.
Yeah, anything. So again, next year will be our big 10 years, and so we're hoping to go big. I'm just excited, and I hope a lot of people come out to. So we partnered with National Geographic Shark Fest. So it's counter programming. And the difference between Shark Fest and Shark Week is it's really on Shark Fest. They really focus more on the science, of it. I mean, there's certainly no slight, and I've had tons of people on from Shark Week, but Shark Fest kind of more focused on the science. They partner a lot with Florida International University. So we're having, I think, 5, 6, 7 stars from this year's Shark Fest going to be there. So you can go talk to them, see what they do, how they got to the career they did, what you need to do if you're interested in doing that same sort of thing. So we like that part. It's fun to meet those people and realize, hey, this is, the thing that I go do for fun on the weekends now is the thing that they do every day for work.
Sure.
This is a question from Victor. Victor wants to know, what is your opinion of sharks during Shark Week on Discovery and National Geographic?
Again, it's just what you're looking for. If you're looking for fun and seeing, although now last year Shark Fest had Chris Hemsworth, so Thor was on there. So last year they had Thor. So of course Shark Week this year had to have Aquaman. So he's on there, but it's just what you're look. The programming on Shark Week is fun, but for me personally, I prefer the National Geographic thing because I really want to walk away learning something new, and that's one of the things that I think they do differently is they're on top of new procedures, new data, all that sort of stuff. But look, don't get me wrong. I mean, I like watching Jason Momoa swim with sharks just like anybody else too. I mean, that's fun as well. So
And I also think you have to look at the entertainment value of it as opposed to the educational side. And so it's really what you have it, what it looks like on one aspect, more entertainment, perhaps with Shark Week, where on the National Geographic side, you're really leaning more towards education and informing people about things as well. So I think you need to look at it that way.
true. And look, I mean, there's nothing in the world stopping you from watching both. So
Sure. All right. What do we got here? In terms of how are they exploited? I'm not
That's
sure.
kind of a follow up to his question of which he prefers.
All right. All right. All right. Here's another question for you, Spencer. Are you planning on coming to Martha's Vineyard in 2020?
Oh, I think it would be fun. I'm curious to what they. Now, a long time ago, and I'm not sure if you were involved with it. There was something that I always saw and I wanted to go to, which was Jaws Fest.
Yes.
And I think it was on Martha's Vineyard, and I never got to go before it was shut down. So I'm not sure if that's part of it, but it seems like it's going to be fun, and it certainly would be my people. So we're not going to have shark. It's too difficult to move our operations up there, but as far as me personally, I'd love to go there.
But I know in 2005 was the first Jaws Fest. The second one is in 2012, and the Discovery Channel was very involved in the 2012 one, and I've still got them somewhere. They gave out, I think you have them down there at SharkCon, the foam hats with the fin. So people walk around the island wearing them. 2025, nothing official is planned yet. And you should join my Jaws 50 page though.
I'm on it.
Oh, okay. As soon as something's announced, we'll have it out. But either way, the fans are going to do something on Martha's Vineyard. So you should go up there, and even if you don't go up for an event, as much as you enjoy the Jaws films, you can walk around the island and just see this was here, this was there. It literally hasn't changed.
I've seen where people have like taken a picture of the bridge and then they've like superimposed it over like the frame from the movie, and it like literally looks like the same thing. So yeah, I've never, I'll be honest, I've been up in that part, but I've never been to Martha's Vineyard. It's something I've always wanted to do.
It is. If you get a chance, I mean, my first time, I literally went over it was like a day, and we spent a night and left the next morning. And even if you have a short amount of time, just to hit Eggertown, maybe like little bits of Oak Bluffs, you truly will walk down the streets 50 years later, and you can see the scene rolling out as you're walking through. That's how little things have changed, and it pops up everywhere. I mean, it truly does. I mean, and the island itself is beautiful. That aside of it, but just from the Jaws fandom side, you would definitely not be disappointed.
Yeah. There's two things I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to go to Martha's Vineyard to go to all the Jaws spots, and then I've actually never been to Hawaii, but I know they have a Lost tour, and there's still like parts of the old set there that you can go travel and do. So those are two places two things I enjoyed watching. I think it'd be fun to go there and see the real life stuff.
You are officially the real life Hooper at Jaws 50. There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Richard can do a Hooper off. Yeah.
You got got to get your hat, maybe a little bit more scruff, but you definitely have the look going there for sure. Absolutely.
There you go. Now I'm reading Richard several times. He's certainly as entertaining as Hooper was. I'd say that in real life, he does not disappoint.
He's a hoot. He was up here in March. I spent the weekend with him and Svetlana, and I can listen to that man tell stories all day.
They're great. They're great. And his
Mike,
wife is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying his wife. You're talking about Svetlana. She's a hoot too.
So, Mike, you were down at the JawsCon last time when Richard was there, correct?
Yeah.
Where you do some of the panel discussion with him or whatever. I thought I saw some clips of that last year.
2021. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, you were brave enough to come in 2021, so that was interesting. So luckily everybody's safe, and so hopefully we should be back to 2018, 2019 when everybody piled in So it's good to see that people are coming back, and it's nice to be able to bring people and events and things that people want to see to the event.
Here's a good question for you, Spencer. Do you like
Okay.
pretzels?
Do you like pretzels?
Who doesn't like pretzels? Come on.
There you go. There you go.
Soft, hard, doesn't matter.
The preferred snack food of the oceanography.
Another Hooper reference there, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Want a pretzel? Yeah. Very good.
Anytime.
Awesome. And so then, question for you. So you guys put on the Shark Con, and obviously you're bringing in definitely like some of the media side, some of the entertainment side. Then, so a lot of what you do is obviously for education, but then, am I wrong in interpreting that a lot of what you do also helps benefit some of those programs too?
Yeah, I mean this is an opportunity for them to come and really tell what they do and convert people. I mean that's one of the reasons that I mix the two, so that you can come in. You enjoy Jaws, but maybe it's made you a little scared of sharks because of that. Not necessarily. So here's your chance to come in, know what you know from the movies, and then talk to those people who interact with these animals on a daily basis and see what the difference between that and reality is, and see why they're important, and what you can do to help with that. So it's not only preaching to the converted, but bringing in other people and broadening the audience. So hey, I've loved these Jaws movies, and they're excited, and they piqued my interest in sharks. So now let's come in and let's see the difference and see that they're still just, or not even more interesting once you know the side, just aside from the movie persona. So yeah, the more you learn, the more you know, and the more you'll be. I mean, were you ever here when Jim Abernethy was here? So he's a National Geographic explorer, and he has a service that goes down the Bahamas all the time. And he has made friends with Emma the tiger shark, and she literally knows the sound of his boat, the sound of the engines on his boat, and she will literally swim right up there and wait in there, and she will play with him like a giant dog. Now, again, I am not advocating that. I am not a touch the animals person. I think we should back
Don't
up.
pet the tiger shark.
But it is very interesting to see the interaction and the difference. Here's this big thing that most people are terrified of, and he's playing with the animal like it's his pet. Again,
the animal kingdom, especially the marine world, it's so amazing. Spencer, I'm sure. Did you see? Was it My Octopus Teacher?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things.
That just melted my heart. He was just,
If you watch that show, you will never ever even consider eating octopus again, because I mean literally it would be like eating your dog. I mean, they're just so smart and so sentient, and again, not anthropomorphizing them in any way, but certainly have their own personalities to where you say, I mean, then this one's different from that one. And I mean that's not the only sea life under there that has those sort of things. I mean, there's a lot of intelligent going on down there, and once you actually interact with it and see it, really that's when you fall in love with it and want to protect it. And that's one of our missions as well.
Spencer, have you been in a shark cage before? Oh, good question.
Yeah, most recently, right before COVID, I was in Guadalupe on a white shark dive, and they go with the cages there and do that. So we had some big girls swimming around us, and like literally like the first time one swims right by you and you could reach out and touch it, I mean, you're changed forever. And they're just so beautiful and so huge and graceful and awe-inspiring, for lack of a better term.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And was it your right hand? Because I've shaken your hand. So if you touched it with your right hand, then
I did not touch it. Wait, let's be very.
Oh, I thought you reached. Oh.
No, I'm saying it was close enough where I could have.
You could have. Okay.
I did not touch the animal.
Well, then I had not touched the great white shark.
Common sense came into favor there, I guess, right?
I just want to be very, very clear. I'm not advocating that. I mean, again, it's a. Sure, I mean that look, you certainly want to inspire this, but you always want to be mindful that these are apex predators that you're in. The only thing that I say is the difference is, and I've been to Africa and certainly recommend it if you've never been on a safari. But if I were to jump out of the truck that we're in near a lion, I probably wouldn't last that long. I've been in the water with sharks more times than I know, and I've always come out unscathed, and I've never really felt uncomfortable or scared or anything like that. So, but again, you're always in there. You're in there with an apex predator, and you always have to be cognizant if it's a wild animal. And not only should you not touch it, for the most part, everywhere it's illegal. You're not supposed to touch it. So not only should you
Oh,
not touch it, but
Wow.
in most cases it's against the law. Like here in Florida, we have manatee, and I've
Yeah.
been out there where some have been up close to shore. Everybody runs out to touch the manatee, and I'm like, okay, look, they're giant sea cows, but they also weigh several hundred pounds, and inadvertently, they could hurt you. You could hurt them. Let's just give them their space, appreciate them from afar. It doesn't mean that you can't get up and see them, but as far as getting up in their space, I never recommend that with the wild animal.
I had a when
Yeah,
I was
even a stray dog. I mean, you wouldn't
yeah.
immediately run up and approach and grab that dog. And yeah, and Guadalupe in those areas. So that is, I guess, depending on the time of the year, that is part of the breeding grounds, isn't it? Or where the babies are usually born, right,
Um,
Weiss, before they start to head back up.
Correct, but in fact, now you can't go. Just recently, I think this year they've, for the time being, they've stopped tourism. So because it's you're in Mexico, so
Mm-hmm.
for now Mexico has discontinued that. You can't even go there now. So right now, the only place to really go do that would be in South Africa or in Africa,
Oh wow.
off the African coast.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I was 16. I was fishing at the pier in St. Pete, and a manatee came by and just happened to catch my line and just took my rod with her. Just swam off with it behind her. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. Oh yeah, I miss Florida.
So it says so
You
beautiful and graceful, great white sharks.
Yeah,
absolutely, but
they are. I mean,
I
if you
mean,
look
they seem
on,
almost majestic to me when you see them without some type of menacing music in the background or in their natural habitat. They're not being chummed or chasing, a bait line. I mean, they're really, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're very much. I mean, you obviously can attest to that. You've seen them firsthand, but
sure,
yeah,
and again, they're truthfully they're we're not on their menu. They're not what we're looking for. People use the word attack for the most time, but mostly what they really need to use is the word bite. And what I like in it too is imagine if I handed you something and said, "Here, take this and look at it," but you cannot use your arms or your feet or anything else. Like, what are you going to do? I mean, so realize they don't have hands, they don't have posable thumbs, and I mean, so the way that they go up and pick things up and test them is with their mouth, because
they
that's
bump,
literally
yeah.
the only way that they can do that. So, it's not necessarily attack. They're probably just curious and checking out, trying to figure out what it is you are. Or again, surfers. If you look at the profile, that profile looks very similar to a turtle, which is on their menu.
sure.
So just be cognizant of where you are. What you appear. Uh, you know, the people I've always worked with, and then back when I was doing actual research, that just don't look like prey. As long as you don't look
Sure.
like prey, especially like when a shark's coming right at you, the easiest way to get it to go away is to swim right at it, because it's assuming that if you're swimming at it, then you're at least on the same level. And understand that animals in the wild, they never want to expend more energy to capture their food than they will get from eating the food. So I don't want to use 1,000 calories to get 500 calories worth of food. So they're going to size you up and figure out, is it going to be more trouble than it's worth to eat you? And if they figure you're not considered prey for them, then they're going to move on into something that it is.
Sure. Yeah. I grew up ton of fishing or artificial bait fishermen, and one of the things that just about any artificial bait does, whether it's on the surface, whether it's in that upper water column or even down below, is it's making noise, it's erratic, it's doing something different out of the ordinary, and attracting attention. And at times, you're trying to trigger some of that predatory instinct and reaction. And so you got to think, if you're doing stuff like that, you're pretty much, following suit. So it's going to, you're running risk.
Well, and then, a lot of times mistaken bite comes from swimming at dusk. People like to jump off piers, but realize that pier is casting a shadow into the water. The water's probably going to be pretty turgid under there. So they're not going to have all their senses on it. So, I mean, there have been more than one story of somebody jumping on a shark, and the shark, I mean, if somebody jumped on you, what would you do? So
Bite them. Bite them. And a lot of times, when you hear about them, though, they just bite once and then they leave.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, like this past week or so, they've had a couple. You know, kid got bit on the hip, and another one got bit on the arm, but then they just kind of like, yeah, I'm out of here. So
yeah, I think they're actually trying to change the verbiage being used. Isn't that right? From shark attack to, I don't know, like an investigatory bite or something like that, or a shark interaction. Yeah, or an encounter or something along those lines.
I mean, you know, just because, I mean, and look, people may think that's a minor thing, but it's all about perception. And, you know, you hear shark bite. Look, shark bite certainly sounds scary. I don't want to get bitten by a shark. But shark bite, but shark attack means this thing is aggressively coming for me. So, I mean, it's different. And I think it's, again, it sounds like a small thing, but I just think it helps understanding and really, you know, perceiving what the situation is versus like attack, like he's seeing me from way off and he's coming directly at me, and that's just not the case.
Let's see. Last question, Spencer. Your opinion of Ocean Ramsey and her free diving with great white sharks and tiger sharks? Oh
God. Certainly, anything or anyone that brings awareness to the plight of sharks, to their importance in the ocean and the part and the role that they play, and really is an advocate for protecting them and protecting ocean creatures and doing what they can to help the oceans thrive is good. I have nothing against that, but and look, to each their own. If it were me, I would not touch a wild animal. But it's not for me to judge who and where, what does anything. If you're asking my personal opinion whether I would touch a wild animal or not, I would not, and I don't think it's great to do that, just for a plethora of reasons. But now also realize that she is in the water with them almost every day and has been for several years. Her knowledge of, being able to watch cues that they're making, and their posture and everything like that, knowing how to adjust her behavior based on that, and when and where to get out of the water and when it's safe. Certainly she's going to have more knowledge about that sort of thing than most are. The real issue comes with those people who are novices and don't know and see the 2-minute clip of her gliding along with the great white shark and thinking, hey, I can go do that same thing because there's a good chance you're not going to have the same results just because you're not trained and you're not going to probably pick up on all those physical cues. So it's probably not smart to do that. So I just think there should maybe be a disclaimer in there, like almost like your parents, like, don't do what I do what I say. So more than that, but I'm not here to say anything negative about anyone either.
Well, I mean, it really all comes down to
nothing. It's common sense. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, people always say, "Do you want to go on a shark dive?" Maybe, but I don't know. I think I would just stand there. I wouldn't move. I think I would just.
Well, and really, most of them that's what it is. I mean, even the stuff that goes on in the Bahamas. I mean, most of the time, what you're doing, you're going down to the ocean floor. There are trained experts there that are going there. There's all sorts of positions on baiting, not baiting, but for the most part, you're sitting there stationary, and the sharks are swimming around you versus you actively interacting with them.
Cool. Well, Spencer, thank you so much. Have a great show this weekend.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Susie, you know the dates for next year yet?
I think it's the 14th and the 15th of July. It's always going to be that weekend preceding the weekend closest to the 4th.
So the 15th would be a Monday. So it's that weekend.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'll give you. Let's go down to July. That's a good question. 13th and 14th.
Okay, I can fly home Monday for her birthday.
There you go. See,
there you go.
You have no excuses not to come next month.
Perfect. Year. And if I can do anything to help you round people up for next year, let me know. Thank you so much. Have a great show.
Thank you.
And Nate, I'll be there next year. Nate will probably come down.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, perfect.
It'll be my first.
Again.
We'd love to have you.
Have a great show.
You too.
Thank you very much, Spencer.
Bye.
Take care.
That was awesome.
That was very cool. Yeah, I very much. I mean, really enjoyed. I mean, just listening to him, and I'm sure he gets asked a lot of the a lot of the questions that we were throwing at him. But I like I said, I have always been a huge, huge person into aquatic animals because of Jaws, sharks, but
Yeah.
any type of fish and stuff. But yeah, so well, I've
Cool.
got one final question for you, Mike, and this is for anyone. I didn't know how Spencer would react to this, so I didn't think I want to ask him. So, regarding Jaws 3, so did Coke enhance Dennis Quaid's character or not? What do you think?
Well, I tell you, it was a lot more prevalent back then. I won't name the actor who told me this story but on Jaws 2, according to this actor, there were cigar boats full of Coke that would visit the set. That would visit the set every week. I did not put that in the book because I couldn't verify it.
Uh-huh.
But I'll say maybe. Give it a maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's a good actor. Maybe just that good an actor.
It didn't hurt the dramatic scenes or the scenes where he had to be over the top. That's kind of what I thought too. So yeah, I thought we just kind of ended on a little bit of a comical or a fun note, even though a little bit at Dennis's expense.
He's not good. He's not going to be in Shark Con. He's not going to watch this. So yeah.
Give it a couple of years. Wait till the gray hair sets in. He's not getting a movie role. Maybe we'll see Dennis. Maybe we'll be sitting with Richard. Who knows? So, all right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap things up tonight. Big thanks to our special guest, Spencer Stewart, for coming on, spending some time with us, letting us know about SharkCon. SharkCon happens this weekend down in Florida, and as he said, if you didn't catch it, is every year right around second weekend or third weekend of July.
Yeah. Tampa Fairgrounds. Tell your friends.
Yes. Not only to, perhaps have some fun, get a little entertainment, tie into some of the, obviously the movies we all love, but also get some education on aquatic life and sharks in general. So really good thing overall and all around. So something to look into. So yeah, very cool. And I want to thank you guys for stopping out. Mike, thank you again. And all your knowledge. And we always do. Fins up, everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you very much. And have yourselves a wonderful evening.